Hello and welcome back to my channel, Mistakes Were Made. If this is the first video you're seeing of mine, I'm not surprised. It's the second video I've made. So welcome. If you were here and checked out our first video, which was our debt confession video, again, thank you for checking up on us again. So I wasn't really quite sure what to do for a second video. So the first thing I will touch on is I wanted to say thank you to all of the folks who made comments on that first video. I was really nervous, and I'll be honest, I'm still nervous to continue this, to put, kind of our business out there, even if, we haven't said necessarily enough to determine who we are. I mean, we might have, I don't know, but suffice to say, talking about money is not something that we typically do within our family or friends or coworkers and stuff like that. It's kind of a taboo subject, and not something that we go into a lot of detail about. So the idea of, putting something out there about what we make and the poor decisions that we have made, for the internet to see was very worrying, because I mean, I know what the internet can be like. There are definitely a lot of people out there who thrive on being rude, being mean, who like to put their misery on others and kick people when they're down. And I was just really happy to see that, as a general rule, that's not what happened on that video. So I want to thank everybody who provided suggestions, who had ideas, who kind of analyzed our situation and gave their opinions on what we could do, where we are at, and most especially the folks that have given encouragement. Some people may think that putting just a kind note isn't that helpful, but trust me, any bit of encouragement helps with motivation. We can use all of the good good vibes we can get, because we recognize that this is not going to be an easy process. We're also 100% aware that this is a situation we've put ourselves in. We are not fooling ourselves on that matter. So seeing folks who are either currently in the same situation or in a similar situation, or who have been in a similar situation and have actually made it to the other side of the process and are now debt free or have met the goal that they have set out, that is very encouraging. It's very helpful. So bottom line, thank you to everybody who has commented. I have tried to comment or show my appreciation to the time that folks have taken on every comment. There are a few that I've seen that have come in based on the notification that YouTube gives, but when I go on there to do the ones I haven't replied to, they're not showing up, and I'm not quite sure why. So I need to kind of, I guess, fiddle with the filters maybe to try and figure out where they are. So if you haven't seen me either like or make an actual, I don't want to say verbal because it's not verbal, but written comment or reply to your comment, it's hopefully coming. If it's been a little while and I still haven't commented, then that means that you may not be coming up because of something going on with the filters. But I do want to say I do appreciate every single person that has commented. Now, my goal for this video is for it to not be very long, but though I am an incredibly introverted person, I do seem to have the ability to gab on a camera as long as it's not my face on there. So we're gonna try and keep it tight. We'll see how well it goes. One thing I did want to put out there, actually two things, is we are not financial experts, clearly, based on the debt that we've created. And so we're just collating all sorts of ideas, methods, processes, things like that, watching videos, reading other resources, and kind of taking from all of those different things that we can try and manipulating them to kind of fit what our situation is. Nothing that I'm putting out here is a recommendation to do things the way we've done it. It's not anything saying this is going to be successful. We could still find that, options that we've tried don't really work and we have to come back to the drawing board and figure something else out or adjust them in some way. So, this is just the process that we are going to attempt to meet our goal of becoming 100% debt free eventually. There is no expertise behind the decisions that we're making. So just a fair warning to anybody watching the videos. Also, I will be the only person that does the videos. My partner, we are both 100% on board with it, but with going down this route, but he is even more introverted than I am, so he won't be involved in the video making. Additionally, he works 12-hour days. Even if it was something he might be willing to do, he's got a lot on his plate already. So nope, this is gonna be my baby, and we'll go from there. So like I said, I wasn't quite sure what to do for this video, so I think we'll just kind of go over the calendar. And I am very glad that I did get a calendar so that I could put all of our transactions on it, because I'm finding that it's making it much more clear how our money is being used, even though, I can go online and look there to see what's going on in the checking accounts and the other accounts. But it's also making it just that much more tangible, where we are continuing poor practices, or where there may be an expense that we need to consider more long term, or if there's something that we may not be taking into account and we should. And the first thing that we came up upon, or that I came across, was during the very first week that we got started. So before October, I did kind of collate the information, the debt and details and stuff, a little bit before October, maybe a week and a half or so before October, with the intent that October 1st would kind of be where we get started. And I did put my first video out on that Thursday. So some of this is not new information, but we do have about a week and a couple of days of some new stuff. Now, the very first thing that I'm going to point out where this calendar has become important is this day. This was very, very early in our getting started process, but we went to Burger King, we went to 7-Eleven. And the reason why I wanted to point this out is because at the time, there was no thought process about going to either of these places. It didn't register at all going to them while we were there or even afterwards. It really wasn't until at the end of the week, when I was kind of doing a little bit of an assessment of how the week went, that it kind of struck me as, hey, here is an example of the type of behavior that we've done in the past that slips under the radar, something that's fairly innocuous. The amounts aren't huge, but if they happen regularly enough, it's just money that trickles through and you don't pay attention to it. So for both of these, neither of these were something we absolutely needed to do. And especially the 7-Eleven, there's generally nothing there that we couldn't purchase at the grocery store for probably less. So this wasn't just a no thought activity, but it was also a no thought activity that cost more money than it necessarily should have. So when I saw that, I was like, well, look, great. My goal is to start doing better, and already off the bat, dumb choice. I am trying to keep in mind that habits take a time to create and they take a time to stop, but that is not something to excuse or allow behaviors to continue. So recognized, not happy about it, not happy that there wasn't even a fleeting moment of, hey, wait a minute, should we actually do this? Do we really need to do this? There's an opportunity to get better. We did put together our grocery envelope, and last week We ended up going over the $100 amount by about $9. We did have a bottle drop to do that same day, so we actually did have some additional cash to, kind of bridge that gap. So, on the one hand, okay, we didn't have to like get in and use our debit card to pay for the groceries because we didn't have the cash available. But on the other hand, we didn't meet the budget, the $100 budget. This past week, we did. We came in a dollar and some change under it. So that extra, any change that we have that comes from like these cash things or where we get change for some reason, goes into a piggy bank type of thing. And then the extra dollar for this I've put um, into just a kind of an overage fund envelope. So I'm using that kind of as an additional savings, just random savings, for when those situations happen. If we have some extra income coming in from something, whether it's, a bottle drop or something else, then it'll go into that bucket as well. So, it was a 50-50, as far as meeting the goal of staying on budget for groceries in the last 2 weeks. As we continue, we did make a payment on the US Bank credit card. This was a minimum payment. I do have this set up for automatic payment, so it is doing the minimum each time. But at least for the past, I would always pay extra. I typically would pay between $100 and $400 more on the various accounts. Something like the US Bank account, I might do $150 more. Something like the Discover card, I might do $400 over the minimum. It really kind of depends on what that minimum is, what my total balance was, how much credit we'd used. So, dropping down to just paying the minimum is a hard idea for me to embrace, but I do know that we will need to shift some ways of going about how we do things, to better utilize the money that we have. Car payment or car insurance came out. We did have some of our entertainment stuff that came out or that we used up. Now here's one of the things that I found was helpful having this, and not just this part, but also each week I'm looking at each of our accounts. Now, in the past, I would keep some track of the checking account and, kind of making sure that we're not going below a total amount in the bank that I was uncomfortable with. But we weren't really checking, looking deeply at the charges that we were making. And that's the same on the credit cards. It was, here's what my total credit is allowed. Here's how much of that I've used. Here's what the minimum payment is. I need to make sure I make X amount of payment towards that debt, but not we're doing A, B, C, and D as transactions, which are contributing to utilizing the credit card, and really analyzing, are those things that we needed to be doing or anything like that. It was very surface. Are we meeting our payments? Yes. Are we exceeding our payments? Yes. Are we less than, do we still have credit on the credit cards? Yes. Okay, so we haven't maxed them out. Same thing with the checking account. Are all of our bills getting paid? Yes. Is there a set amount of money in the bank that we're not going below? Yes. And that's as far as we were really looking at it. But doing this, it means I'm keeping a much closer eye on there. And for all of these cases, I'm not really expecting to see a lot of upward movement. It should be downward movement. Now, obviously, there are interest payments and stuff like that, so some stuff is going to go up. Um, but I noticed that this Amazon account had a higher total balance than it did previously, and I hadn't made any orders, so there was no reason for it to go up, and it wasn't time for it to cycle to the next month either, so it wasn't a case of interest being applied. So having this process is helping me, see things like that. And what turned out to be was when I first got my numbers for all of this, it was before a order that we had made had actually posted. The cost had actually posted, so it went up a little bit because of that. And then we had a an order that was actually not back ordered, but delayed, and it was delayed by a couple of weeks. And I really should have kept that in mind, because it's not like they hadn't sent notifications that it was delayed, but it just didn't register that meant, well, if it's delayed, it means it hasn't shipped, and if it doesn't ship, they don't put the charge on. So when this when I noticed that it's gone up, I was like, what the heck? I haven't ordered anything. But suffice to say, there was the delayed shipment finally arrived at whatever distribution center they have and ended up going out, and we did receive it, and they finally charged the card. But we also had some monthly payments that we were doing. So we had BritBox and we have Kindle Unlimited. Now, the BritBox, I wasn't taking that into account with our monthly costs, because it was going directly onto the Amazon account and not onto the checking account. Same thing with the Kindle Unlimited. So BritBox we canceled. I mean, we paid it, so we have it for a month, but we canceled that. The Kindle Unlimited I have left in place for now, and it's going to be part of our entertainment costs for each month, because I tend to read between 10 and 20 books a week, and the cost for those, if I were just paying for them flat out, would definitely be far more than the $11.99 that Kindle Unlimited is. That said, I was talking to a coworker, and she mentioned that her library does allow downloading books. And so obviously, if I can do what I'm doing with Kindle Unlimited for free, then that's the better option. So I need to look into that and see if there's similar options. Didn't have really any big changes with the rest of this stuff, except for we did gather the monthly payment for paying my mom back, so that is in her envelope. And then into this past week, we got our $100 for the groceries, which I mentioned we did stay under. We do have these charge point costs. Now, this is when my partner is charging his car at work. Unfortunately, it's not free, but it's, very small charges. And I kind of keep that in the gas budget. It's not a lot, so it gets kind of rolled up into that. Now, you'll notice that we do have 2 deposits here from Etsy. I've had an Etsy shop for years, like 10, 12 years at minimum. And initially I was doing jewelry, and then I quickly realized that my rudimentary jewelry skills they weren't up to snuff, and it was things that other people could make if they really wanted to. So I didn't really sell very much of that. However, I was doing okay selling some of the extra supplies that I had from those processes. So I transitioned to just doing supplies. Now, when all of the craziness was going on back in 2000, 2001, and into 2022, 2020, 2021, and 2022, sorry. A lot of people were at home because they'd been laid off, or they couldn't go to work, and so they started doing hobbies or trying on new ways of making money, doing crafts and stuff like that. So business definitely was very much booming for my Etsy shop during that time. And while that was a plus, it was also a minus, because there was a lot of extra income coming in, which helped us get to where we are. It was not the cause, it wasn't even a symptom or anything like that. It was just something that helped us stay on top of our credit card debt and the money we were spending, and not really thinking about how we were spending it. Because if we were handling it appropriately, maturely, smartly, all of that extra income, the income that we already had coming in, could have been put towards the credit card debt that we'd had at the times, brought it down to zero, and we could have had a very big impact on our mortgage as well. But we were just living, a fairly carefree life, and that has caught up with us. But suffice to say, I still have stuff in my Etsy shop. I am not doing additional inventory purchases or anything like that, but I still have stuff in there. Every now and then I do get people who purchase, but as you can see from these payouts, it's not super regular or very much. Now, one of the things I need to do is I do still have a lot of inventory that has never been listed, and people can't buy what they don't know is available, so I need to get those put up. It's not a guarantee that anybody will purchase, but the inventory's there, so this could be another way to help potentially provide additional income. Um, Something that I'm thinking about is also trying to sell on Facebook Marketplace, but my only experience with that is we sold a furniture-like item, and the gentleman came, bought it, picked it up, came to our house, and took it away. I do not love the idea of strangers coming to my house. So I don't know if Facebook Marketplace is really a venue that's suitable for shipping things to people. And I know there's the idea that you could just find a mutual place in public to meet, but that's something I'm not super comfortable with either. But you do what you got to do. So if you have experience with Facebook Marketplace and selling on there, I would love to get firsthand accounts of whether it's suitable for the kind of selling I'm talking about, or your opinions there. It really is an avenue I don't have a lot of experience with, so I don't know if I'd be wasting my time trying to sell beading supplies and stuff on there. I do kind of get the impression that it's more of a kind of garage sale type thing rather than a selling for profit venue or avenue. If I'm wrong about that, please correct me. But I would prefer to be selling like I am on Etsy with an eye towards profit, but I also understand if I'm not moving things, then I need to be willing to sell for lower prices, with the idea that it's at least money coming in, and the cost for these items has already been paid, years ago. I haven't purchased new inventory in about 2 year and a half, not 2 years yet, year and a half. When things were really flowing, I bulked up on my inventory a fair amount so that I would have enough to stay on top of the orders. And then as they started to dwindle down, the inventory usage dwindled, and so I do have a fair amount to work from. So that's that. You'll notice I did cross out the Citi payment. The Citi card was one that I opened recently as a balance transfer option to utilize a 0% promotional balance. That's still processing. So even though the amount of credit that's available for that card has been dropped by the amount that we did for the balance transfer, it's not actually showing any owing balance. And my thought was, hey, I could chuck $100 towards it to kind of get going on paying it off because it is promotional. But they did not like that because it's still showing that I have a zero balance. So that didn't go through. We did pay $200 on the Amazon card and $200 on the Discover. Now, these were both payments that were already set up. Though I did drop the Discover from 300 to 200, but in both cases, they were also over the minimum that was required. Again, I'm struggling a little bit with that because I hate the idea of only paying the minimum. But to combat that a little bit, we also had some rewards for Amazon. So there was 62.89 that I went and I applied to the balance, and then for Discover is $11.73 cash back that I applied to the balance. Over here, this past Friday, we did get our paychecks. We made our mortgage payment. There was something that we needed to do with the house, and so we ended up spending $59.82. So I did create a envelope for that. We so far have been pretty lucky that we haven't had a lot that we've needed to do to fix up problems or issues at the house. It is an older house, so I think that's just kind of a lucky reprieve we've had. But I've put in here maybe $75 a month. Maybe that should be $75 every other month. I'm not sure. We're still kind of figuring that out. But I do want to put that into a cash thing rather than just through our checking account. We did get our $100 into our first savings account, so that's going towards our emergency fund, which means we are now at $775, I believe, and our $100 for groceries for this next week. Now, the reason why I haven't changed our auto payments for this is at least one of our accounts, there has to either be a deposit of a certain amount or more every month, or we need to transfer a specific amount within a month in order to avoid fees. So I've kept these in place for now. Yes, I do know that I could just take the remaining $125 that is needed to get to that first 1,000 and put it in there right now. But with this stuff in place, I'm letting that go for until the end of this month, which I believe we should be there by the end of the month because there'll be another 100 and then the 25. So I'm pretty sure that we might be light by 100. So at the end of the month, if we're only at $900, then I'll just put that extra 100 in, and so that we'll be at our 1,000. But I, for now, don't see a reason to stop with this. You guys may have a different opinion, and I'm very open to hearing that. A number of you mentioned that the extra payments that we're putting towards our principal on our credit on our mortgage would probably be better served paying off the credit cards. So we already have, it is an automatic payment. So we already have one that was in place, and that one went through. So what I did was I did turn off the automatic payment, which does go every 2 weeks. So it coincides with my partner's money deposit. And the next payment will be coming out this week down here, and I changed it so it would pay the balance of what is left for our monthly mortgage amount. So we will still have a little bit that has been paid to principal because of this payment, but not the total amount we normally would. And then once this comes out, I will reset the auto payment so it's just paying the actual mortgage payment amount without any extra. So I have heard you. We are making that change. And then we'll utilize those extra funds somewhere else. Now, you may notice that this amount is much higher than the $1,630 that I had on the original video. We've got a few things going on here. So the first thing is I did stop making payments to my 401k. So there's an inherent bump from that because that is pre-tax out of my paycheck. We also got a bonus this for this paycheck for last month's work. So awesome. But considering the situation we're in, that the company is going bankrupt, or I guess technically has gone bankrupt and they're in bankruptcy right now, we've been a little surprised that bonuses, incentives, things like that are happening. I'm not going to complain. The more money that I can bring in before this all goes away, I'm 100% for, but it's still interesting. Additionally, we found out that we got raises that started this month. So this amount is inflated. It is not going to be 2292.02 every single paycheck. I'll have to wait until next paycheck, which will be at the end of the month, to see exactly what I can expect without bonus being involved, but with the new raise in there. As far as the job situation is, we still haven't gotten any kind of indication from leadership as to how long we are going to be working. My boss is kind of hoping that it'll go at least to the beginning of December, so we'll be let go, maybe very early December and still have a month of healthcare to cover. But he doesn't know. He's as much in the dark as we are, unfortunately. But we've also got healthcare enrollment notifications and other kinds of notifications, which they're very confusing as to how things are going to go. So I I still don't know what's going on here with the pay, with the job. I have put out my resume for a few jobs. A couple of them I don't really feel like I'm qualified for, but there were a couple of people who gave me encouragement and said, the worst they can say is no, or just not contact you, and that's 100% correct. I'm very, very nervous, and I don't know why. I am. I think it's because I am so comfortable with the job that I've held for 17 years that something new it's just scary. But other folks in the comments had mentioned, they had a somewhat similar situation, and the fact that they had left a very long-standing job ended up being one of the best things for them, and I'm hoping that that's going to be the case for me. We'll have to see once that comes about, but I have put my resume out there. Sorry, I keep bumping this. I don't plan to leave my job unless it financially makes sense to turn away from the amount of money that I'm making now, as well as the severance that is going to be offered once I do finally get laid off. But if I find a job that is close to what I'm making now, it doesn't have to be exact or more, but if it's close, I'm not going to jeopardize that opportunity to hold on to the job that I have. That wouldn't make sense. I don't think it makes sense for me to leave my current position and what's coming from severance, etc., to go to something that's going to be significantly lower, though. Once this job is gone, that criteria is going to change significantly. I am going to absolutely be open to all sorts of situations, but I have been putting my stuff out there. I've been trying to find stuff for weekend work because I don't have a lot of calls on my time, except for if I happen to get Etsy orders for the weekend. That's so I would have some opportunity to maybe do temp work. I don't think I can do things like, what is it, Uber Eats or Grubhub and, delivery stuff, because I was looking at our car insurance and they seem to have a clause in there that very much says they don't want us using our cars for those kind of gig things. And I don't want to jeopardize my insurance and get into a situation where I need it and they say, sorry, but you're in breach of your insurance, so we're not going to pay for anything. So I think those are not going to be doable. But we'll see what I can do as far as weekend work. I don't anticipate that he'll be in a position to do that just because of the long hours he already works. During the week, my availability, because of the role that I have, it's not just a straight 8 hour shift. It can be 8 hours, it can be 9 hours, 10 hours. It just depends on what's going on a particular day. So I wouldn't be in a position to have a set availability to somebody in the evenings. And I wouldn't want to put myself or another company in the position where I can't meet the expectations of being on time and stuff like that. So this past week, we did see that the Amazon came down a little bit because of the payments that we made. The Discover came down a little bit because of the payments that we made. And then this went up because we had some interest that got applied, and then we didn't have any change for these two. So that's kind of where we're at for this week. I know that I wanted this to be a shorter video, and I failed at that, obviously. But really quickly, I did want to note that I did cancel the Disney Plus. We do still have the Netflix. We're still determining that. And then the Kindle Unlimited kind of took the place of Disney Plus, though for a slightly smaller cost. One thing, once we do, once we're in the position where I don't have a job, obviously our ability to stay on top of these the way that we have been is going to be exceptionally compromised, and we recognize that. So we do have the option of cashing in my 401k. Now, that's not something that's going to be available until I have severed my relationship with the company, whether I do that voluntarily because I found another job or because the job finally is kaput. And I know that because I am not 59 and a half years old this year, any withdrawal or just cashing it in means there's going to be an instant 10% penalty on those funds. Then there'll be a 20% cost for federal taxes because the money that was done was all pre-tax when they took it out of my paycheck. And then there'll be an additional 2% from whatever monies I received that I would need to set aside because my current tax rate, federal tax rate, as far as I'm aware, is 22%. Now, my state does have income tax, and if I'm looking at the charts properly, that rate is about 9% for me. So I'd also have to set aside 9% of that initial total that I was getting to offset those tax amounts, because the state, they don't take any state tax out. So basically that's 41% of that money that would be unavailable. I'm okay, I of course I'm not a fond of taxes just in general, but I know that they fund stuff that needs to be funded. But so I'm okay with an asterisk next to it, with that 22 and 9%. The 10% on the top seems egregious and unnecessary, but it is what it is. I don't anticipate that what's left and available for me to apply to these is going to cover everything. It's absolutely not. But it's hard to judge exactly how much it will be because it is dealing with the stock market, and the stock market's going up and down. So there could be some significant swings in what the amount is today versus what it would be when I go to actually cash it in. But my intention would be to pay these two off, the Bank of America and the Citi. And you might think, well, why on earth would you do that? Those are 0%. These are both promotional, so they're going to go away. And I would want to make sure that I am not putting myself in a position that any of that money that's on promotional falls outside of the promotional rate period, because then all of that interest that has been accruing will then get applied onto those cards. Hopefully, there would be enough after paying these to also go to pay down the Amazon card, if not completely, at least a significant amount, because that is the next highest interest rate. And then hopefully we'd just be dealing with these two um, cards for the credit card debt worry. Obviously, we will still have our monthly costs that we have to figure out on top of that, and of course, our mortgage and, gas, food, things like that. If that's where we land and where we have to be, especially because it takes me a little while to get a new job, or because the new job that I am able to get is significantly lower than the pay that I've been getting now, then that just is what it is. I would love for that not to be a situation we have to do, but it is 100% on the table. So that's where we are at the end of our second week. Not a huge amount of movement, but definitely some insights have been gained. I need to start kind of making a decision on how do I leverage the money that we are saving by not paying hugely over the minimums, or where we have paid minimums, and which debts to tackle with any extra we have. Keep an eye out on areas where additional envelopes would make sense, and of course bulking up our emergency fund to prepare for when I am out of work. That's it. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate the commentary and how helpful and kind people have been in those comments. It's been very nice. Like I said, I was really concerned about taking this stuff, but it's been really, really nice. So thank you for that. And I guess I will see you in the next one.